Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and today we're talking about a gentle, direct parenting approach that really will lead to nurturing your child's heart and mind. I teach parenting all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government, with a focus and emphasis on calmness and understanding. And in this video, we're going to be talking about heart changes. In this video, we're going to be talking about the needs that children have for their heart and their mind to be transformed. We're going to talk about having a change of heart and a gentle way to correct behavior. I am the mother of 4 and previous foster parent of many difficult and troubled teens. In fact, I did level 3 therapeutic treatment foster care for a number of years for teens that were all between the ages of 12 and 18. They had traumatic backgrounds in their past. They had a lot of issues that they were dealing with. Oftentimes they had processing differences, which also made learning and governing themselves very difficult. But I knew that it was possible, especially if we could get the heart and the mind to unify. So when a person experiences truth, then the heart and the mind have a connection. The mind finally understands what the heart is trying to say. So good parenting should connect to heart and mind. It should make sense. It should be logical and truth-based. Many times when people are doing their parenting, they focus on just dropping a heavy hammer down, saying, I'm the parent, that's it, and just expecting that that's going to be enough for the child. But for most children, they really do want to know why, and there is an element of parenting that really does suggest it's wise to explain why. And most of the time, if they're just arguing with you about why, of course, that's going to be a different scenario. But usually when they're asking, well, but why is this the situation? We do need to take the time as parents to talk to them about it. So I'm going to be looking at this concept of touching the heart and the mind and being gentle and direct in our parenting through the lens of the principle self-government. Self-government truly is foundational to any person having a change of heart. In fact, it means to have a change of heart. So let's talk about the definition of self-government. Self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So what that means is that you are consistently analyzing where it is that you are headed or what type of a person that you ought to become. And then you're making a plan for yourself and following through on that plan. And if for some reason something goes wrong or off with the plan, then what happens is you course correct. You tell yourself, oh, that wasn't the right way. I need to do that again. So you see there's a humility there, which is a heart piece. And then there's this logic, which is looking at, wait, I was going here. I thought this was the way to get there, but it's not because it's headed me in this direction. So how do I course correct and go back this direction? Good parenting, like I said, should be very logical. This means that we should be consistently teaching our children good problem-solving skills. When a person learns how to problem solve, that actually helps them be able to engage their heart more. Many people think the heart is an emotional center of the person, so we have to appeal to emotion to have a heart change. And this gets people into trouble. When we're just trying to appeal to the heart of a person through emotion, then we might fall into the trap of emotional manipulation. And there is a better way. We're going to talk about that better way, but before we do, click the subscribe button. This channel is dedicated to providing videos that will touch hearts and hook together the minds, because everything on this channel is about how to teach yourselves and your children the principles of self-government. So click subscribe now. Learning self-government, because it's a principle, should not feel forceful, but it should feel very direct. So that's where we have a gentle, direct approach to parenting. Many people, when they're trying to be gentle, will go on the manipulative end of, I'm going to be their friend, I'll be permissive, let them do whatever they want because I want them to like me and not think I'm mean. But then what happens is we end up raising little monsters because they feel entitled, they get controlling, and try to manipulate their parents. But if we go on the other track, where some people think, well, I've got to be direct in my parenting, sometimes it gets a little bit too forceful. So if we combine gentle and direct, then we get something that I call traditional strict parenting. Traditional strict parenting is an assertive type of parenting where the parent actually directly handles what needs to be talked about, but they do a lot more teaching than reacting. When a person starts reacting to misbehavior from their children, then the gentle part usually transforms into a manipulation part. So if you want to touch the hearts and minds of your children, you've got to be completely honest in your parenting. And if you're truly honest in your parenting, many parents would admit that there are many times they're trying to manipulate outcomes with their children emotionally. They're power struggling with their children. And then they wonder why they're not getting the results of that heart connection that they want. It is possible to connect to the heart of your child even at the time that you are correcting them. In fact, a child should feel closer to you during and after a correction than they even did before. I know that seems strange, but corrections aren't bad, are they? Why do we think of corrections as bad? Could it be because we always use the term negative consequence? Well, just because something is a negative consequence doesn't mean that it's bad. Negative doesn't mean bad. It means below zero, okay? So, when something is positive, it shows above zero. When something is negative, it shows below zero. A negative consequence just means we have fallen below our zero baseline of acceptable behavior, and so we need to talk about it. It doesn't mean that something is bad. It just means that something needs to be taught. And when there's negative consequences and positive consequences, then we know we're utilizing the principle of cause and effect. And a person can't learn self-government unless they get the opportunity to accept negative and positive consequences so that they can learn cause and effect. In order to create an environment where self-government can be learned, it takes a certain type of a tone and a certain type of a structure. The tone is what I've been referring to thus far. That tone of truth, integrity, bonding, connection, recognizing in the moment of a correction that you don't have to feel distant from each other, but you can feel connected, safe, even though the parent is being consistent. That is possible if you teach the family members all of the same skills. Many people try to change the behaviors and hearts of their children while not even speaking the same language. And I don't mean French versus Spanish. What I mean is that the language of connection and correction is a specific language. It's a tone language and a word language. And many times parents assume their children understand what is expected of them. So then when the child does not follow through with what's expected of them, the parent will then lay into the child about that or start to do a correction. The child then feels instantly like confronted about the problem, and they're not sure they can trust the outcome of the situation. This is really just a fluency problem. So if the whole family understands the same skills together as a group, then that family will be able to communicate through any circumstance. So for instance, there are 4 basic skills that I teach parents how to teach their children. These children's books each teach one of the 4 basic skills. The 4 basic skills are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. Each one of these 4 basic skills has a skill set attached to it, and when a person does all of the steps in the skill set, that's when they've finally done that skill. So for instance, this book here, Porter Earns a Quarter, teaches the skill accepting no answers and criticism. There's 4 steps to that skill. You look at the person or the situation, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, and then drop the subject. In my family, because we understand what calm is and what it isn't, then I can say something like, oh, calm voice, and they know immediately to work on their voice. Or I can say, this sounds like one of those situations where we're going to have to drop the subject. Or they might even say to me, Mom, on that movie we just saw, Kylo Ren, who was slashing up the whole room with his lightsaber, really wasn't accepting a no answer very well. He did not drop the subject, and he didn't have a calm body at all. I would say, yep, you're right. They can recognize it all around them because they know the terminology and what it means. That's called fluency. When you want your child to have a heart-brain connection and for them to take ownership of their own behaviors by learning the principles and skills of self-government, you've got to teach them the language that will help. This includes teaching them the language of your corrections. In our family, my children know the exact words that I will say every single time I'm going to do a correction. So because of that, their anxiety levels are lower because the predictability is higher. This gives them the opportunity to focus in on what the situation really is and the problem that needs to be solved. So the book that teaches all of my skill sets for the parent is this book here, Parenting a House United. You can find all of these books at teachingselfgovernment.com. So the tone that we want to have is a tone of truth. And if you have the same structural elements that you are using with all of the family, then you have that fluency in common that keeps you in the truth zone. There are a lot of other tone elements too, elements like calmness, acceptance, trust, love, mercy, justice, consistency, compassion, understanding. There are many tone elements that we want to have as part of a good teaching self-government environment. But we have to have the words to solve our problems. Otherwise, it's hard for us to stay gentle and direct in our parenting interactions with our children. We need to be able to speak to the heart and the mind so that they can truly have a change of heart, which is completely possible. I have just scratched the surface here on what you can do to help transform your child's heart and mind and how to be gentle and direct in your parenting. There's so much more. In fact, if you've liked this video, I highly recommend that you watch my next video, which is the not so known secret for parenting success. Click on the link to that video now.